Hey everyone, my name is Perry and welcome back to the cassette phase. Well, it's been a really fun month, but Halloween is tomorrow, so we're winding down on our Halloween content for this year. I wanted to be sure to fit this video in though, because I have a lot of fun making these mixtapes with you all. And these types of videos, they're not the most popular thing on this channel, and that's okay. But those of you who have checked them out, you seem to really enjoy them. And if nothing else, I hope to share a new song or two. You know, something that sticks and becomes a song that you might listen to going forward. So the obvious theme for this cassette phase mixtape, mixtape number 3 I believe, is going to be Retro Halloween. And it's going to be a fairly eclectic mix. You know, some modern stuff that sounds retro, some vintage stuff that still sounds great to this day, and all within kind of a loose, spooky Halloween theme. Now don't worry, I'm going to try to be as creative as possible when selecting these songs. You know, you're not going to hear any of the old standards here, so no Monster Mash, no Thriller. I just feel like those songs have appeared on every Halloween mix ever made. So we're going to do our best to try to keep it unique, and most importantly, to keep it nostalgic. And then as always, I'm going to share with you at the end of the video a couple of ways that you can listen to this mix. So do you have a few minutes to sit down and make a Halloween mixtape today? Come hang out. Okay everyone, welcome back to the rug. Let's get started on mixtape number 3, Retro Halloween. So side A, track 1, comes to us from one of my favorite groups, a group that's going to make a couple of different appearances on this mix, and that is Gunship. Now you knew Gunship had to be on this mix because their music just sounds like Retro Halloween. It really does. And the song that I'm going for on this very first track here is called Tech Noir. And I chose it for a couple of different reasons. One, the sound. It's just a great song. You know, retro vibes all throughout. But two, and maybe even more importantly, the music video. And I really hope that you guys check this one out because Gunship is known for not only great music, but great music videos that are just, you know, right at home in the hearts of any 80s kid. And this one's no exception. Tech Noir, it actually starts off with narration by John Carpenter. And then it just goes on from there. It's VHS themed. It's claymation for most of it. You know, you've got claymation versions of RoboCop and He-Man and some of your favorite characters from the 80s. And they actually made a part 2 for Tech Noir called Tech Noir 2. And spoiler alert, it's going to bookend this mixtape. So you'll see part 2 in the story, if you will, come at the end. But yeah, side 1, track 1, Gunship, Tech Noir. Okay, moving on here. Side A, track 2, comes from another one of my favorite synthwave acts. And I promise this mix isn't going to all be synthwave, but I just had to mix in this track from the Midnight titled Vampires. You know, I feel like you can't have a retro Halloween mixtape without including Vampires from the Midnight. You can tell by the art kind of what you're going to be getting. And again, as with some of the previous Midnight songs that I've shared on previous mixes, there's some great saxophone on this one. Actually, the saxophone on this gets stuck in your head and just kind of stays there all day. But yeah, Vampires just had to go on this list from the Midnight, side A, track 2. So for side A, track 3, we're going to leave synthwave for just a moment and go with just a great vintage rock song from the 80s. And that song is Bad Animals by Heart. Now this has always been one of my favorite songs from Heart. I think Ann Wilson, her vocals have never sounded better than they do here. You know, some people prefer the 70s stuff. You know, being an 80s kid, I've always liked the 80s songs from Heart a little bit better. But yeah, this one just pretty much rocks. I mean, it's got like a really cool little like synth line that kind of continues, like a little arpeggio that continues throughout most of the song. It does some cool like minor to major type stuff that just feels good when you hear it. And like I said, Ann Wilson just absolutely kills it on vocals. Now, why did I choose Bad Animals for a Halloween mixtape? You know, like I said, this is kind of loosely interpreted Halloween vibes that we've got going here. And I just think of things like, when I think of Bad Animals, I'm thinking, okay, werewolves maybe, maybe Cujo, or Jaws, just things like that. And then just kind of the sound. It's got kind of like a dark sound through most of the song that just fits perfectly within this mix. So give it a chance and let me know what you think if you haven't heard it in a while. Side A, track 3, Bad Animals from Heart. Okay, so for side A, track 4, we're going to go with a group called September 87, which, how awesome is that band name? September 87 bringing us Bad Dream Baby. And a couple of reasons it's on this mix. One, it's just super catchy. It's one of the catchiest songs you'll hear on this mix. Two, it's got a really cool video. You know, it's kind of up there with what we saw on Tech Noir from Gunship as far as creativity and just fun retro sci-fi 80s vibes all throughout this one. And then, you know, the loose theming again with Bad Dream Baby makes me think of like nightmares. You know, Nightmare on Elm Street fits within the Halloween theme pretty well. So, but yeah, great, really fun, over the top, campy 80s music video on this one. So be sure to check out Bad Dream Baby by September 87. All right, so we've already made it to track 5 on side A. And this comes from like a hard rock, I guess you'd consider them metal at times, group that had some really great music in the 80s and 90s. I think they may even still be going. And that is Queensryche with the song Silent Lucidity. Now, Silent Lucidity is not a good representation necessarily of what you're going to get typically from Queensryche. You know, it's their ballad. It's kind of like their really pretty, slow power ballad type song. But it's beautiful. It really is. Like, I've been listening to this song since I was a kid. I remember seeing the video come on all the time on MTV, and it's just stuck with me. It was the first thing I ever heard from the group, and you know, one made me want to explore what else they had to offer. Yeah, vocals are great, instrumentation beautiful. You know, there's lots of strings and things like that all throughout this one, and the theme of it is about lucid dreaming and you know, how you can control what's going on in a nightmare or a dream, and it's just put really eloquently all throughout. The lyrics are amazing. Just one of the best rock songs of that era in my opinion, and it fits perfectly onto our mix here. Halloween, retro Halloween. We've got track 5 side A, Silent Lucidity from Queensryche. So you know we had to close out side A with a banger. Track 6 side A, we're going back again to The Midnight, and this time we're going with a song called Shadows. Now you can tell from that artwork that this is epic. It's got a story, because they actually adapted this song. I think it's a loose adaptation, but I'm not sure. I haven't read this yet. They turned it into a graphic novel. And you can tell by looking at that what the song is going to sound like. You know, cyberpunk, rainy streets, talking about a monster crawling from the shadows or from out of the depths of the water nearby. And again, you're going to hear this a lot in a lot of my mixtapes that I make for you guys. It's modern-ish music that for some reason and somehow just makes you feel nostalgic. It takes you back. You read through the comments on some of their videos and people are like, you know, they're younger than us and they're listening to this music for the first time, and they're telling you, you know, this music makes me nostalgic for a time that I wasn't even alive. part of me is like, well, what a shame you weren't alive for the 80s and the 90s. You grew up you missed out on one of the best generations to grow up in my opinion. All the fun that we had and all the memories and everything. And the Midnight just encapsulates all of that stuff so perfectly. And for a Halloween mix, you have to add Shadows. And so we're going to close out side A with the song Shadows by the Midnight. All right, so let's kick off side B with something up-tempo, something fun and something nostalgic. And this is kind of a stretch as far as fitting it into a Halloween-themed mixtape, but nonetheless, here we are. Let's go with Shadows of the Night by Pat Benatar. And I'm actually really kind of surprised and that I don't have this on cassette. I thought for sure I had this album on tape, but I guess I don't. Either way, this is one of my favorite songs of the entire decade. I think it's my favorite song from Pat Benatar. I think it's just so catchy. It's so memorable. Just that soaring chorus that, they hit you with it over and over again, but it never really gets old, at least not for me. It's a great sing-along. Everybody knows it. Perfect type of song to open up the second side of a mixtape. So if you haven't listened to Shadows of the Night in a while, or within the context of a mix like this one, go check it out and you'll see. Just remember how great an 80s pop rock song that actually is. Side B, track 2, we're going back on another adventure with Gunship. This time from the Dark All Day album, which also has incredible artwork. Check that out. And the song specifically for this mix is called Black Blood Red Kiss. And if that doesn't sound like Halloween, I don't know what does. But, that's one of their best melodies, I think. It feels kind of like a ballad at the beginning half of the song. Just really, pretty melodies, good vocals. Just really easy on the ears. And then towards the back half of the song, it gets a little bit more edgy. It sounds a little bit like 90s Nine Inch Nails or something like that, which is, nothing wrong with that in my book. So Black Blood Red Kiss from Gunship, one of their catchiest, most melodic songs that I think that they've done from the Dark All Day album. Perfect for this mix for side B, track 2. So for side B, track 3, we're going with a song that you've probably heard, but we're going to do a little bit of a curveball and do a cover of it. So the song is called Cry Little Sister, which you may know from the movie Lost Boys. It plays over the opening credits. It plays several times throughout the movie, and it's just kind of an iconic song from the 80s. But this version is more modern, and it's from a group called, I never know how to pronounce their name. Is it Churches? I'm never sure, but this comes from the soundtrack from the Netflix movie Night Books, which was just okay. I was excited for it. I was a little underwhelmed by the movie itself, unfortunately, but this version of the song is awesome. I forgot the girl's name from Churches, the vocalist, but she's got a really cool throwback sounding, almost like 80s voice, almost like a Cyndi Lauper type voice, and it just sounds perfect on a cover of Cry Little Sister. So yes, I could have gone with the original here, the one from Lost Boys, and it would have been perfect. It would have fit just fine. But mixing it up a little bit, trying to throw something maybe that you might not have heard as many times, we'll go with the cover from Churches, Cry Little Sister. For track 4 on side B, we're going back to the Midnight. And can you guys tell yet that that's one of my favorite groups? It just is. I don't know. I like pretty much everything that they put out, but for this mix, we're going with a song called Neon Medusa. And just tell me that title isn't perfect. And if the title Neon Medusa isn't perfect enough for this list, how about the album that it comes from, which is called Horror Show? And look at that artwork. Just epic and awesome. And that kind of describes the song too. It's got this groove to it that just you know, it's perfect like driving song. Great guitar solo in this. You know, all the sounds that they use, and the guy's voice is perfect for this type of music. Yeah, there were several songs that I considered for this spot from this album that would have worked perfectly too. You know, there's a song called "Ghost in Your Stereo," and there's one about like "Don't You Look Good in Red," and just would have been great. But I liked Neon Medusa a little bit more for this particular mix, and it's an absolute jam. So I'm gonna include the studio version when I put the list together on YouTube and on Spotify, which I'll talk about more here at the end of the video. But if you like the song, I highly recommend that you check out the live version as well, because the Midnight, while they are a synthwave act, they use a lot of in their live shows, they use a lot of, like, you know, live instruments, guitars and drums and bass and all that kind of stuff with their synthesizers, and they put on a really good show. So yeah, if you like this song, I would highly suggest that you check out the live version on YouTube, Neon Medusa from the Midnight. Okay, for side B, track 5, we're going with a throwback to a song that I loved as a kid. I had this audio cassette and played it all the time, and that is none other than Janet Jackson, Black Cat. You know, Black Cat may be a little bit on the nose for a Halloween mixtape, but it is what it is. And I actually don't have this album, Rhythm Nation, on audio cassette, which is another weird one that I don't have. But for whatever reason, I have the VHS tape, which includes some of the concert footage and some of the music videos and things. And one of them being Black Cat. Yeah, right there. And it's one of the best songs from that album. You know, it's got like an 80s hair metal rock feel. Almost sounds like you're listening to Poison or Motley Crue or Van Halen or something like that, but with Janet Jackson on vocals. So yeah, real upbeat, really catchy. And the video that I'm including in the mix is the official video, which they used a lot of concert footage from back in the day, and you can just watch it and see 80s people having fun in the 80s. The late 80s, but still the 80s nonetheless. Just having a good time. It captures it perfectly. And a good song too. We're winding down towards the end of our mix, so good up-tempo rock pop song here for track 5 on side B, Janet Jackson's Black Cat. And to close it out, track 6 on side B, the end of our mixtape here. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, with the bookends, we're going back to Gunship. This time it's Tech Noir 2. So we had Tech Noir as track 1 on side A, and then closing out the whole mix, track 6, side B, we've got Tech Noir, but part 2. So kind of like the sequel. Again, you've got John Carpenter doing some narration. You've got some of the repeated like melodic elements from the first song, but they're kind of subtle. Like they're mixed in and you recognize them. You're like, wait a second, I remember that melody from the first song, but they mixed it in tastefully. And created this is its own thing. It's definitely its own song. And if I'm just comparing the songs themselves, I mean, nothing's going to top that music video from the first one. And I don't think they have a fun music video for this one just yet. But this album just came out last year, so. But if you're just comparing the songs, like I said, I like this one better. I think this is a catchier song overall. It's got a little bit better melody. Sticks with you all day after you've heard it. A great song to end out a mix. And I predict that some of you guys might wind up with this on your own personal playlists. I could be wrong, but everybody that I've played this for so far just seems to really like this one. So I think Gunship, and again with the awesome album artwork, I think they are the perfect group to listen to around Halloween. You know, synthwave, synth-heavy stuff, but also, you know, guitars and saxophones and good drums and bass and all that mixed in. But it just has like a slightly edgy, slightly dark feel to it, which is reflected in a lot of their music videos. Yeah, I just can't say enough good things about that group. I'll listen to anything that they put out. But for this mix, wrapping it up, side B, track 6, Gunship, Tech Noir 2. So that's it, guys. let me tell you really quickly how to listen to this if you want to. Those of you who have watched the first couple videos, you know for these mixtapes how it works. I'm going to put the link in the description to a YouTube playlist which has all of these songs in the order that I presented them here. So you can just click play on that and let it go. And for some of these, especially for the first Gunship song and for September 87, I really recommend you checking out the video because it's just as important as the song itself. But yeah, just let it play. If you don't want to go that route because of the ads and all of that, I don't blame you. So I'm also going to put a link to Spotify, this playlist on Spotify in this order. So if you have Spotify Premium, that'll play through with no ads, just continuous. But even if you just have the free version of Spotify, you'll get this mix, I believe, in order. Maybe not. It may actually shuffle them if you don't have Spotify Premium. I'm not sure on that one. But either way, you'll get the songs. I imagine most of you will just go through YouTube. That'll probably be easiest. But I wanted to put a couple of different options out there so everyone can listen to these tunes and see if it gives you the retro Halloween vibes that you're looking for. And there we are. So if you do end up checking out this mixtape, let me know what you think. Did it enhance your Halloween spirit at all? Did you hear anything that you're going to add to your own personal playlists? And if so, consider subscribing. We've got a lot more fun mixtapes on the way. But for now, and as always, relax, enjoy life, and be kind. We'll see you in the next one.